Okay, we are continuing our investigation of evolution and natural selection, and you're going to be participating in a discussion over these topics today while compiling a set of Cornell notes using the Cornell way. So, new heading, new ink on your notes from yesterday, so we're just adding to those. You're going to put comparative analogy in the left-hand column. Comparative analogy will go in the left-hand column. Anatomy. Did I say analogy? I am so sorry. It is anatomy. It is anatomy. So the study of anatomy is evidence of common ancestry. The study of anatomy can give us evidence of common ancestry. And there's three main types. They can be homologous, analogous, and vestigial. Homologous, analogous, and vestigial. Give me a fist of 5 on this. How we doing? Got a few people still writing. That's fine. All right, I'm about to move on. We should be wrapping up here. So new heading, new ink. We're going to talk now about homologous structures. So left-hand column, right, homologous structures. Right-hand column, similar in structure but different in function. They are evidence of a common ancestor, however. So here we have 4 structures. They kind of look to be shaped the same, but they all do very different things. So I have a human arm, I have a cat leg, I have a whale flipper, and a bat wing. So does a human arm serve the same function as a bat wing?
Sure does. We could if you believe in it.
If only we believed we could fly, right? So just like we talked about with sails, structure relates to something's function. The same is true with these images you see here. And all of these things are coded for by genes. These structures are coded for by genes. Give me a fist of 5. How are we doing? No one said wait, so. Oh, and now I got a grunt. Y'all got to speak up. All right, here we go. So why are genes homologous? New heading, left-hand column. Why are genes homologous? The genetic code links all life to a common ancestor. Everything on Earth contains the same 5 bases: adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine, and when we're talking about RNA, that it also includes uracil. So all organisms on Earth, their code is written in the same language. All living organisms on Earth's genetic code is written in the same language. Remember, when we're looking at DNA, this section here in the middle is our genetic information. Those are our bases. And then these things here on the side, my deoxyribose sugar and my phosphate, that is actually just the structural backbone of the DNA. Similarities and differences between the same gene and different organisms can help us determine how closely related the organisms are. If the genes aren't a whole lot alike, am I going to say they're close relatives or distant? Distant. Yeah, if they're not a lot alike, they're distant. However, if there's a lot of commonality, then they're probably closer relatives, right? So similarities between genes help determine related. In addition to genes, because remember, genes code for amino acids that make proteins. Do y'all remember transcription, translation, right? So instead of just looking at genes, I can also look at what amino acids are made. And I can see how close that is. That can also give me information about whether or not two organisms are related to one another. So I can look at genes, but I can also look at amino acids. So I'm going to put can't. Bless you. Give me a fist of 5 on this. A few people still writing. All right, I'm about to move on. We've got to be able to finish these and still have a little bit of time at the end of class. Here we go. There's also something called analogous structures. So new heading, new ink, left-hand column, analogous structures. So they are similar in function but differ in structure. They do not show common ancestry. So like the bats of a fly, wow. Did you just hear what I said? The bats of a fly. The wings of a fly and the wings of a bat, they both allow those two organisms to fly. But do they really look anything alike? No. Are they structured? Are they made of the same materials? No. Not at all, right? So while they may do the same thing, their structure is different. And that means there is no common ancestor. So analogous structures do not mean that there is a common ancestor for those organisms. Analogous structures do not show common ancestry. Do homologous structures show common ancestry? Look at your notes.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. All right, about to move on. Is there anyone who needs me to wait? There's also something called vestigial structures. So new heading, new ink, left-hand column, vestigial structures. These are remnants of organs or structures that had a function in early ancestors. Has anyone in here ever had their appendix burst?
What's that mean?
All right, so attached to your intestines, there is a small organ in the human body called an appendix. We don't actually use it. We don't actually need it. But it's there left over from our ancestors. Sometimes it can get infected. And if it's not caught in time and removed, it can actually be fatal when it ruptures, because it can lead to the infection spreading and it can lead to you bleeding out. Okay? So in humans, the appendix is a vestigial structure. Guys, did you know that some humans can be born with a tail?
Yeah.
No. So tails in mammals are just an elongated spine.
Has anybody ever been born with a tail?
Lots of people.
Oh, what?
Usually, doctors know it pretty much in utero, and there's a quick surgery that happens shortly after birth and it's removed. Okay? However, sometimes arteries can get wound around that vestigial tail to the point that they can't be removed, because if they remove the tail, they cut an artery, you'll bleed out and you'll die. But there are humans to this day that still have tails. And it's not some sort of like strange mutation. It is something left over from ancestors, okay?
I ain't never heard of that. That's crazy. I want to tell.
Another example of a vestigial structure is a whale and a snake pelvis. They are structured in such a way because whales and snakes actually used to have legs.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, what?
Whales and snakes used to have legs, and they evolved to a point where they no longer needed them. But if you look at the pelvic structure, you can kind of tell there used to be legs there.
They had a common ancestor who were terrestrial, so that
She
trait.
wasn't it the same with dolphins?
I'd have to look into that. I would imagine maybe because whales and dolphins are also related. So I believe that I worded that funny to where you're going to go home and tell your parents snakes had legs. Miss Neighbors worded that a little bit more clearly, that it wasn't that like a snake had legs one day and the next day it didn't, but they had an ancestor back in the past, a common ancestor that did have legs. So as they evolved away from that common ancestor, they still remained, they kept some of those traits, those vestigial structures. So that's why it appears as if those appendages could still be there. Please don't go home and tell your parents I said whales walked on land.
We learned last unit that you get your traits from your parents and it gets passed down.
Hey,
You get traits, your genes passed down from your parents. So the trait for hind legs was given to these whales, and over time that was something that wasn't needed anymore. It wasn't fit. They survived better underwater, so that gene eventually got cut off, and now they stay underwater. But they still have the little remnants of their ancestors with them. But that doesn't mean, yes, a whale was walking at one point. No. It means somewhere they share ancestor with somebody who was
did.
extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
So don't. Same thing with like humans came from monkeys.
No.
No, we did not. We share a common ancestor. Yes. So,
All right.
that's a misconception that a lot of people think.
Why are you playing with your parents?
So structural patterns are clues to the history of a species. Here is a close-up image of a whale's pelvis and what would have been the femur. So y'all know femur's that long bone in your leg. It goes from your hip to your knee. So you can see what used to be a femur. It's tiny now, right? But there is still that vestigial feature, okay? It's left over from a common ancestor. So we're going to do our poll. We're going to practice some questions here. So this image shows parts of the humerus bone in different genre of primates. Genera? Am I having a moment? I don't know. So here we have the images of those primates' bones. A will be 1, B2, C3, and D4. Here's your question. Which statement best supported by the observable structures of the different humerus bones? Is it 1, these primates all lived in a similar environment? Is it 2, the primates shared a common ancestor? Is it 3, the primates interbred with similar organisms in a population? Or is it D, the primates had diets that consisted of similar types of foods? Choose your answer and hold it high. Be proud. Please tell me you chose 2. They all shared a common ancestor. Yeah, if I eat an apple today and a banana tomorrow, will my bones change? No. All right, new heading, new ink. Left-hand column. Molecular and genetic evidence. 2 closely related organisms have similar DNA, RNA, proteins, and amino acids, which are, they make proteins. You can compare DNA of different species to determine relatedness. Remember, talking about DNA, genetic information is in the middle. It's the steps on the ladder. Your backbone are the sides of the ladder. That's your deoxyribose and your phosphates. So chimpanzees have 0 amino acid differences from humans. A rhesus monkey has 1 amino acid difference, and a rabbit has 9. Which of those 3 are we the most closely related to?
Chimpanzee.
Yeah, because the amino acids are the same.
That's crazy.
What organism up there are we the least related to?
Rabbits.
Yeast.
Oh.
Yeah, out of the 3 I said it was rabbits, but out of the whole list it would be yeast.
I don't want to do it.
Sorry. He asked if monkeys could swim.
Bro.
I didn't ask that
Bread. I think
Oh,
bread goes into that.
That's what I was talking about too.
They can't.
You can?
It's kind of in a category all its own, isn't
You
it?
I
can?
think it is.
All right, moving on because I got a lot of chatter.
Wait!
Then you better get Terrence to shush it.
Wait.
Shut it.
Terrence, be careful.
Terrence. He can't swim.
I give up on your pen.
Yeah, some of those new pens I got, they're not smooth. Like the ink cuts in and out and it's annoying.
Yeah. We have to put paper in before it works.
You're not writing on paper.
Well, it needs like more than 1 page of paper. I know what she means.
Where did you get these?
They're from Amazon. All right, gonna have to move. Gonna have to move.
If you miss anything, we had teacher copies.
Okay.
Terrence, how them notes coming?
Can you see my right hand?
Do you even have your name on it?
All right. So here's an example of what you could expect to see if you're asked about molecular evidence. So the DNA sequences of whale and ungulates are very similar, as demonstrated by the DNA fragments below. So if you look, this first one is only the first letter's different. That's different. That's different. Everything else is the same, right? So there's so many similarities that they are closely related, right?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
What would it look like if you took out those different ones? Would they look like the same animal?
Again, your DNA is like, that's a portion, a small portion of your
No, but
DNA.
if you took that out of every single one of them.
If you took it out.
That would be a mutation.
Yeah.
It would be a frame shift mutation, and I think
It
both,
would bump down, that species probably wouldn't live.
yeah, they would die.
If you take out.
All right, yes, ma'am. Next practice question, we're going to poll again. Same as last time, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Scientists can determine relatedness amongst organisms by comparing partial amino acid sequences. The table shows 4 partial amino acid sequences from 4 organisms. Which organism is the least related to the other 3? Take a moment and look.
Hey.
Do we raise it high, be proud? Ryan, what you think? What is it? It's 2, right?
I told y'all.
So you've got to look at the sequences and find which one has the least in common with the others. So, new heading, new ink. We're getting close to being done. Proof of evolution. New heading, new ink. Left-hand column. Proof of evolution. It's the change over time through adaptations. Guys, think about how long you've been alive. It's been 14, 15 years for most of y'all. Do you know what cell phones looked like when you were born?
Yeah.
Right 17.
A little brick, sometimes a flip phone, right? Have they changed over time?
Yes.
So that's exactly how evolution works. Now, evolution's a little slower than cell phones, but it's the same principle. The proofs that we can see of evolution are the fossil record, homologous structures, genetics, are all proof. 2 terms I want you to know. Convergent evolution is evolution of similar traits in unrelated species. And divergent evolutions is the species within the same group evolve differences leading to new species. So converge, they're not related, they evolve, and they start to look more and more like each other. Divergent, they are related, they evolve, and they begin to look very different. So divergent